Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special edition of the World Report Election 2010. Today we're getting to know the candidates. Chelene Nightingale is the American Independent Party's candidate for governor of California. One of the things that's been very, very contentious is AB 32,
yes.
The global warming bill, if you will. We just found out recently that from the San Francisco Chronicle that the pollution levels have been overestimated by 340%, grossly overestimated. AB 32 is something that's going to cripple jobs in many economists' opinion. It's actually going to drive people out of the state even more.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, they're absolutely correct. I was just in San Francisco campaigning, and it was incredible to me. There was big, huge say no on Prop 23 signs, and it didn't say it was the jobs proposition. It just simply said say no to big oil companies. This has nothing to do with oil companies. This has to do with the very survival of the state of California. AB 32 is based on junk. I don't even want to call it science, but it's based on junk. And unfortunately, Arnold Schwarzenegger signed this Global Warming Solutions Act into office based on the Air Resources Board, by the way, which is unconstitutional. We need to abolish those committees, or at least audit them and put on constitutional people on these committees, but they will have to be under the legislation and government. How these come into effect is that the committees actually create laws that don't go through legislation, don't go through the governor. They just create them. So
would you suspend it, or would you eliminate it completely?
I would eliminate it completely. AB 32 is based on junk, and that's why we have to vote yes on Prop 23. It's just a Band-Aid, but it will bring down our unemployment rate from 12.5 to 5.5 until the unemployment rate goes down to 5.5% for one entire year. Again, not the complete solution, but if I'm governor, I will abolish it completely. We need to bring back jobs. This junk science is overregulating our state, and especially when they're coming out with this type of information, it just shows the propaganda that they put out in hopes that the people will fall for it.
In many cases they do. Even our own Governor Schwarzenegger went along and signed it in 2006.
He should have done his homework.
The Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006. The Delta Smelt and the San Joaquin Valley. There has been a lot of people that have been left with nothing. A lot of farmers, generations of families left without an income, left without produce. Most of the produce in America comes from that area,
yes.
And they turned it off for a little fish. Now, I'm not against fish. I actually love fish, but explain to me what you would do and what the situation is there.
I'm glad we're discussing this. I actually did a walk from Fresno to Sacramento for the farmers to have the water turned back on. In fact, Sheriff Richard Mack endorsed me partly for the reason that I've been out campaigning saying, people are more important than fish, we'll turn back on the pumps. But during that, I had a group come and meet me, Northern California farmers, that met me on the steps of Sacramento and have since taken me on a tour of the Delta. It was, and showed me some information. Who's really behind all of this? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dianne Feinstein, and her husband. It's about privatizing water and having a water market. People are making billions of dollars on the water. The farmers in the Central Valley where their water has been turned off is because they're not part of this privatizing of the water, which is very, very unfortunate. I'm already speaking to people right now on how we can make solutions. The salmon is actually, people don't really care about the smelt. It's the salmon that people are caring about. So we can create some fish hatcheries, and perhaps have the flow when the salmon are going one way, we can have the water flowing. When they're going the other way, turn them off temporarily. But we're coming up with solutions. I'm talking with this group right now. In fact, on the way to the studio, I was on the phone with one of them. But it's a big racket. It's a big racket, and it goes much deeper than just smelt. I can tell you this.
So explain the plight of the farmers that are in that you did the walk for.
Yeah, well, the plight is this: they are losing their agriculture due to not having any water. It's a drought. We're losing over $2 billion a year in agriculture. The Northern California farmers, same thing is happening to them, though, because their water shifted down to Southern California and other places when they need the water as well. So it's really become a whole statewide problem, and nobody's talking about this. We hear only one story or one propaganda when it goes much deeper than that. And so finding out who the players that are behind it was quite fascinating, and the people that I'm talking to to, the Northern California farmers, are actually looking at solutions, and we're going to talk about that. And even after this election, I'll be helping them to provide water solutions for our state.
We only have a couple minutes left in this segment. It's been very interesting. Education.
Yes.
I know that's big. I went on your website earlier. I was doing some research for the show.
Yes.
Education seems to be a very important part of your run for governor.
Absolutely.
Explain what we need to know and why it's so important.
Well, first of all, our education system, we went from being the top to the bottom. We're 49th out of 50 states in the entire country.
In terms of what?
The education, the test scores, we're the highest state for the flunk out rate. We're using indoctrination. I mean, they're not, the materials that they're receiving, the Public Employer Teachers Union has far too much control of our education system. So here's what I want to do. First of all, I'm a homeschooling mother. I want to provide choice for parents, whether it be charter schools, private schools, etc. And they can either have voucher or tax credit, whichever they choose. But we also have to get the teachers union. We need to have them have less control. The money that they're taking out of the teachers' paychecks should be reduced, and we need to localize the school system. I'll tell you a really super quick story. I met with a woman whose sister works for the teachers union, and these parents wanted to beautify their school. So what did the teachers union do? They filed a grievance against them because they were planting flowers, etc. We need to change that. We need to put a vocational track into our school system and care more about students than we do political agendas and money.
We only have 1 minute left here in this segment.
Yes.
Quickly, what would you do as governor that you don't see anybody else doing, or anything that people have not done? And do you feel like you're splitting the vote? I've heard that from a lot of people.
You know what? If you call splitting the vote voting for the only conservative in the race, or the only Christian in the race, the only pro-life person in the race, then I'm sorry. There is no other pro-life candidate. There is no other that I know of Christian candidate. There is no other conservative candidate. There's no candidate talking about the issues that I talk about, which are the water, illegal immigration, education, and of course our jobs. I'm not splitting the vote. They're splitting the vote if they're not voting American first. And finally, I know it. I believe in a state bank for the state of California. That's an economic solution for our state. I'm for ending the Federal Reserve System, and it's in our state constitution to have our own sound money system. That's what we need to do. Bring our economics back and utilize our resources so that we go from the 8th largest economy in the world to the 3rd, which is where we once reigned.
That wraps up another edition of the World Report television program. If you'd like to check us out on our website, go to theworldreport.org. For Chelene Nightingale, I'm Scott Crowfoot. God willing, we'll see each other again.